All right, football fans, welcome to a Tuesday episode of the Call Sheet Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Smith. It is April 22nd. That means that today's Earth Day. So for anybody out there celebrating Earth Day, that's a good day. I usually like to plant something on Earth Day. I usually feel as though that's a worthwhile endeavor. So if you're celebrating that, enjoy your day. It's also my father's birthday. So shout out to Mike Smith, turning a spry 82 today. My dad turning 82 today. He's 82, and the other day he shot 75 on the golf course. The man can still play some golf. So, Dad, hope this is a great day for you as well. And it's an exciting time for the players who are about to enter the NFL draft. We're 2 days away from the NFL draft. A lot of young men about to have a lifelong dream realized, and they're going to do it in Green Bay, an iconic NFL location. So pretty exciting time in the NFL. But for franchises, this is a really important moment in which you have the opportunity now through the draft to potentially remake your team or alter the course of your franchise. And today's topic is going to look at specifically over the last 5 years, which NFL teams have done the best and the worst jobs of drafting. Who's aced the draft in that time frame and who has really struggled. And we'll talk about why and then what effects that has had on these respective franchises. So I'm going to use a chart that was developed by Sports Illustrated in which they awarded draft points to each franchise given the following criteria. If you landed a player who became a starter for your team in the draft, you got 1 point for each year that player was a starter, right? So 1 point for every year you draft a guy who has a starting season on your team. Then you got 3 points for every player who earned a second team All-Pro designation, and you got 5 points for every player who was a first team All-Pro. So again, 1 point for each season a drafted player became a starter, 3 points for each season they were a second team All-Pro, and 5 points for each season they were a first team All-Pro. And using that as our measuring stick, here are the teams who have done the best and the worst over the last 5 years. This is actually discounting the 2024 season. Excuse me. So this is 2019 to 2023. All right, 2019 to 2023. Who's done the best? I think the team at number one will surprise you. If you had to take a moment right now and then sort of like say in your head, all right, well, who are the teams that tend to draft really well? Who do I think has done really well in this process? I'm pretty sure you wouldn't put this team at number one. And that team is the Dallas Cowboys, who from 2019 to 2023, using Sports Illustrated's scale, earned 52 draft points. Now, you may say to yourself, well, why hasn't that translated into more postseason success for the Cowboys? Has it translated into success? For the most part. In that 2019 to 2023 window, Dallas was pretty good, had some really good seasons. It just didn't translate to postseason success. And I think part of that has to do with when you look at the players they landed, it's really top heavy. They knocked it out of the park on some of their top picks. Micah Parsons, obviously, who's been a multiple All-Pro. And Dallas earns a lot of points for the fact that Parsons has been a perennial first-team All-Pro throughout his time in the league. Then you have CeeDee Lamb. Then you've got Trayvon Diggs. You got DaRon Bland. I mean, those are all high draft picks that turned out really well for Dallas. Where Dallas didn't get it done was further down the draft. over those five seasons, again, 2019 to 2023, there's only a couple players who really made an impact for the Cowboys beyond the second round. Tony Pollard, Tyler Biadasz, the center, DeMarvion Overshown, and Pollard and Biadasz are gone. They're not even in Dallas anymore. So they did a great job at the top of the draft, not so much in the later rounds. But obviously for the Cowboys, whatever it is that is holding them back from getting over the playoff hump, they have not been past the divisional round of the playoffs since 1995. They can't get there. Number 2 on this list, San Francisco 49ers. They're just 1 point behind Dallas. San Francisco earns 51 draft points on the SI scale. They knocked it out of the park in fairly different fashion. Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, Dre Greenlaw, Brock Purdy. What's interesting is those guys are picked kind of all over the draft. Bosa's a first-round guy. Ayuk's in the second round. Greenlaw's a third round. Purdy's the last guy chosen in the draft in 2022. So they did a good job, and they did an especially good job when you consider the fact that in those 5 seasons, they only had 3 first-round picks. 2 of those picks were traded away. And of those first-round picks, Bosa's the only one they hit on because the other 2, Javon Kinlaw and Trey Lance, were misses. So San Francisco, kind of the opposite of Dallas, their drafts haven't really been top-heavy. They've done a nice job adding to the core of their team in later rounds. Now, Dallas, 52 points. San Francisco, 51. And now it takes a big drop. A big drop. And a lot of that has to do with the all-pro designations. So now, number 3, you get down to Tampa Bay with 38 draft points. And they've landed solid players, but not those upper echelon, top-heavy players, right? Parsons and CeeDee Lamb earn a lot of points for being first and second team all-pros, as do in San Francisco, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bosa. But Tampa Bay lands guys like Tristan Wirfs, Jamal Dean, Antoine Winfield, Kalijah Kancey, Cody Mauch, solid starters, good football players. They now comprise the core of a Tampa Bay team that has won back-to-back NFC South titles. So Tampa Bay's doing a nice job building through the draft. Of course, as I'm going to talk about at the end of this show, it's not just about the draft that determines postseason success. You have to have other factors, and the most obvious of which is the quarterback. And of course, Tampa Bay added Baker Mayfield to the mix after Tom Brady retired so that they remain good at the quarterback position. Okay, number 4 and number 5. These will both be very surprising. I expected, if you're like me, when I started to do this research, I expected to see perennial powers at the top. I thought the top teams would be Philly, Kansas City, Baltimore, etc. But it's Dallas, it's San Francisco. Now, San Francisco is not surprising, but Dallas is. Tampa, a little bit. 4 and 5 are extremely surprising. Number 4, the New York Giants, 36 draft points. They have landed in the 2019 to 2023 drafts. They landed players like Andrew Thomas, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Xavier McKinney. He's now in Green Bay, but excellent player. Wan'Dale Robinson, who's become a good receiver for the Giants. They've landed a lot of really good football players. But the Giants, so why haven't the Giants been better? Well, quarterback. Their first round pick in 2019 was Daniel Jones. That didn't work out the way that they had hoped it would. He didn't become the player they thought he would. And when you swing and miss with a high draft pick at the quarterback position, it is a huge setback. And so the Giants, by not being able to land that franchise guy, they haven't been able to do so since Eli Manning retired. And they have been sort of stuck in this perennial down period ever since. So despite the fact that they've done well overall, the failure to land the quarterback, the swing and miss on Daniel Jones, costly. And number five with 35 draft points, the New York Jets. It's the Giants and the Jets. Now look at some of the players the Jets have landed. Sauce Gardner, perennial All-Pro. Breece Hall, excellent running back. Quinnen Williams, excellent defensive lineman. Will McDonald, good pass rusher. Garrett Wilson, excellent receiver. Boy, they've landed some talent. But we go back to the quarterback. Good job by the Jets of building out the roster. But their big quarterback investment in that 5-year window was Zach Wilson, who they took with, I believe, the number 3 overall pick, 2 or 3. Overall, if you have the number 2 or the number 3 overall pick, you better land a all-pro player or a cornerstone of your franchise. And they got neither in Zach Wilson, and that set them back significantly. So like their counterparts at MetLife Stadium, the Giants, the Jets are stuck in the cycle of not being able to be competitive because they lack a quarterback. So that's a very interesting top 5. Dallas, San Francisco, Tampa, the Giants, the Jets. The teams who, using the SI chart, have done the best job of adding starters and impact superstars throughout the draft, all pro players over the last 5 years. But other than the 49ers, none of those teams have really had much postseason success. Tampa Bay's had a little bit. Now let's go to the bottom of the list. Bottom five teams. At number 28 in the league, the Miami Dolphins, with just 17 draft points. But this is largely a factor of the trades that the Dolphins have made. They've traded away a ton of picks. In 2022 and 2023 combined, they made just 8 total picks in the draft. You usually have about 8 picks in a single draft. They had 8 in 2 combined, including no first rounders. And they've added some good players in that 5-year window, Javon Holland and Jalen Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa, but they have not hit really on any first rounders other than Tua, and they've struggled to build out the roster. Again, lack of picks have hurt them. So trading away some of their picks has inhibited their ability to add quality players through the draft. Number 29, Pittsburgh Steelers. Pains me to say this, but the Steelers have been terrible in that 5-year window, 2019 to 2023, in the first round or with their first pick. Look at the guys they chose in that 5-year period with their first pick. 4 first rounders, and then 1 year they didn't have a first rounder. So their first pick was a second rounder. Devin Bush, Chase Claypool, Najee Harris, Kenny Pickett, and in 2023 it was Broderick Jones. Jury's still out on Jones, but he did not have a great sophomore campaign this past season. The other 4 guys are gone. None of them are even in Pittsburgh. None of them got a second contract. Devin Bush, I started off okay, but a knee injury derailed him. Chase Claypool was a disaster. Najee Harris had 4 good seasons, but departed for LA in free agency. And Kenny Pickett was, again, swing and a miss at quarterback with a first-round pick. If you swing and miss at quarterback with a first-round pick, you're in trouble. And so much like the Giants, the Steelers have not been able to find an heir for their longtime franchise quarterback. And they are obviously better than the Giants, but they seem to be stuck where they are, which is a good football team that can't reach the next level until they find a quarterback. Number 30, Cleveland Browns. Not surprising there. 14 draft pick points. They did not have a first-round pick in 2022 or 2023. And in both of those seasons, 2022 and 2023, they didn't have a second-round pick either. In both those years, they didn't pick until the 3rd round. Why is that? Because of the disastrous Deshaun Watson trade. So many of those resources went to Cleveland for Deshaun Watson. So the Browns have hamstrung themselves both financially and in terms of their ability to improve through the draft because of that awful deal to acquire Deshaun Watson. And they are still trying to dig out. Now, this year, they've got the number 2 overall pick. So let's see what they do with that. It seems like they really like Travis Hunter. He's my bet for them. I think they're taking him. And I'd be shocked if he doesn't turn into an impact player in the league. So they got a chance to get better on Thursday night. Number 31, Carolina Panthers. They're another team that's hamstrung themselves as a result of trades. They had just 11 picks overall in the 2022 and 2023 draft cycle. And in that time, they added just 2 starters. Bryce Young, the quarterback, who, while he improved last year, has not been great, and Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver, who's just been average. The most impactful player that they drafted in that 2019 to 2023 window was Brian Burns. He's now gone. So nothing really to show for in terms of significant impact there for the Panthers. And coming in at number 32 on the list with just 10 draft points. That's it, 10. Which means you've only gotten starter level production out of like 1 or 2 guys in 5 years. The Arizona Cardinals, 10 draft points. The big name additions over that time, Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, and offensive tackle Paris Johnson. And really that's it. But here's a stunning statistic. You want to know why Arizona hasn't improved through the draft significantly? Here's the number. They've had a ton of draft picks. From 2019 to 2023, they had 41 draft picks. That's an average of more than 8 picks per draft. Of the 41 players they took over that time, only 6 of them are on their current roster. Only 6 out of 41 on their current roster. So obviously, their inability to find guys that could stick with them for whatever reason has really hamstrung the Cardinals. Now, let's end the show by looking at this. What can we conclude from this exercise? What can we conclude about the draft by going through these numbers? Well, 1, the importance of the draft remains significant. But as we see with some of these teams at the top, like the Cowboys, the Jets, the Giants, a couple criteria matter. 1, you can draft well all you want, but if you don't have a franchise quarterback, if you don't acquire that guy either through the draft or some other fashion, a trade, free agency, you can't reach the upper echelon. The teams that are still the best in the league all drafted their quarterbacks. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Baltimore, Cincinnati. They all drafted their quarterbacks. And on this list, none of those teams are really in the top 5, despite the fact they did a great job in other areas, drafted their franchise quarterback. And in fact, 3 of those teams actually took a big swing at him and missed. What else? Well, as we see from the teams at the bottom, if you want to improve, maybe not get to the upper echelon, maybe not become an elite team, you better be good in the draft. Because it's really, as much as anything, it's where you can build the bones of your franchise. Maybe you land some star players like a Micah Parsons, the way Dallas has. But for the most part, the draft is a great opportunity to solidify other areas of your roster. Free agency matters, of course. Trades are rarities. The draft is a great opportunity for good teams to get great, for mediocre teams to get better, for bad teams to become decent. And it all kicks off on Thursday night. So I'm here for it. It'll be exciting. All right. That's our Tuesday show. Tomorrow, Whiteboard Wednesday, my good friend and colleague Paul Callahan will be back. We're going to talk about the mesh concept, one of the most universal passing concepts in all of football, used at the high school, the college, the NFL level. It is a staple of playbooks all across America. Why? What makes mesh so universal, so versatile, so user-friendly? We'll deep dive on that with Coach Cal on Wednesday. So please join us for that conversation. Until then, everybody have a great day. Take care.